On YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand sports talk for.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, leading off the Roku channel, National Streaming Sports. Every week and Monday, we cover the weekend sports, and we had Wild Card weekend this weekend, Jack. A few games that were played. One was really, really competitive, the last one. The other two, if you start off with Buffalo and Denver, Jack, it looked like Denver comes out, throws a bomb, 7-0 the Broncos, and it's like, whoa, what's going to happen here? Is Denver with that defense going to be able to keep the game in front of them? Can Bo Nix have a good game? But Buffalo in the second half, Jack, it was all Buffalo.
Yeah, it was the first possession of the game, and you think to yourself, if Denver's going to have any chance of beating Buffalo, they're not going to do it coming from behind. Buffalo's not going to jump out to a 14-0 lead, and Denver's not going to grind away and then overtake Buffalo. But they hit a long pass, Nix to Sutton, and all of a sudden it's 7-0. Denver's up, and you kind of wonder a little bit, could Denver then score on the next possession? They have a tough defense. Can they keep it going? But, Buffalo, little by little, got it together, overtook Denver, and then pulled away at the end. The game basically went the way I think we thought it would, that Denver was going to hang tough for a while, and that early touchdown that gave them the lead, of course, put them in that position. But Buffalo's just a better team, point blank. There was nothing about this game where Denver can go back and overanalyze things. I know Sean Payton, their coach, says, well, we have to play better. They weren't coached well enough. How much more could he have coached them up for them to go into Buffalo and actually, win a playoff game there? And 31-7, decisive Bill win. But the Baltimore Ravens going to be a different proposition. That's going to be a close game, a tough game that we, in all probability is going to come down to the wire.
I agree. You had, Josh Allen throwing for a couple touchdowns. Cook with a unbelievable first half, 120 yards. By halftime, they actually ended up taking him out of the game in the second half for most of the second half. That little third down back, they got number 26. His name escapes me right now, with a great catch in the end zone, a good third down back. But it seems like Josh Allen, since Diggs has left, has gotten better, Jack. He spreads the ball around. He's got like 4 or 5 different guys. He got a good tight end there. They got Shakur there. That's good. Coleman, the rookie, playing pretty well. They got an array of wide receivers. It's a group. It's a group effort.
Well, they got Keon Coleman from Florida, good rookie. is fulfilling his role, basically. Amari Cooper getting him in a trade during the season with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it's spreading it around. I wouldn't take a knock at Stephon Diggs. I mean, Stephon Diggs is an asset when you have him on the field. I mean, you're really good receiver. So the problem is sometimes when you have these elite receivers, they want to be the man. They want to stand out. They might not quite blend into the receiving corps. That could have been the case with Stephon Diggs. There's a certain discontent that happens. We're seeing it happen a little bit with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia, even though A.J. Brown might be taking a bit of a bad rap, in all fairness to him. He might be taking a bit of a bad rap because sometimes it's perception, it's image, and it's not reality. But you have certain receivers who are elite, and it's hard for them to have a diminished role. And that's the way it is in any sport, Mac. You take a great basketball player, take Earl the Pearl Monroe. He blended in with the Knicks. Okay, he was a star player when he came over, but he was willing to blend in. And it was kind of 50-50 when all was said and done because he never quite took off as the superstar that he was and should have continued to be. But he did get his NBA championship that he would not have gotten otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a fair comparison. I think that, on a five-man team starting rotation, of course, if the player is a troublemaker, it's going to affect the team a lot more because you got other wide receivers you can throw to, and you only got four other guys that can shoot the basketball. So, I mean, all I'm saying, Jack, is I think that Josh Allen has grown because he's not depending on one person or one or two players. He's seeing the field to me better. He's throwing the ball better. He's still got that. He still can run, but I haven't seen him run as much as he did, especially last game. It was mainly just throwing the ball and letting Cook run with the ball. And that to me is a little growth on his part.
Well, you know what it is, Matt, what I've noticed this year, the different type of running plays with quarterbacks. Certain plays are designed for the quarterback to run and not necessarily go down. Occasionally, they're football players. They got to get hit once in a while. And if it's a big play and you need the first down, the quarterback can't be worried about going down. He's got to sometimes strain for the few extra yards like a running back would do. And he's going to get hit. And the coaching staff can't baby him too much at times. They can't get timid with him at times. Obviously, the quarterback has to know when to go down in certain situations. But yesterday, I noticed Josh Allen made an effort to get the few extra yards for first down, which he did. He was going to get hit, but that's part of, the game.
Agreed. Sean Payton mentioned, as you mentioned, that he could have done better coaching. I think I was a little disappointed in the Denver offensive play calling. First down run, second down run, third down pass. I mean, I get it. I mean, you don't have a great passing game in Denver, but man, come on. I mean, they did a fake punt, which I loved that. That was great. That was kind of a surprise play.
Wow,
but I mean, Jack, play action pass on first down when they expect you to run, I think would have been a little bit better. I don't know. Sean Payton is a great coach. I don't want to criticize him. I think he was very conservative versus Buffalo. I mean, to beat Buffalo, you're going to, as you said, you're going to score touchdowns. Field goals ain't going to do it. The possession of the field ain't going to do it. You got to score touchdowns to beat Buffalo.
Well, that's what I liked about Kevin O'Connell, certain games at the Minnesota Vikings this year, when they'd be expected to run in situations, they'd be calling play action passes. Right. The defense is all stacked up, ready to defend against the run, and that's a perfect time to throw the ball. Perfect time. I'm not saying fade right back, and pass in a traditional way, but you have you running back out of the backfield. It kind of opens things up. And then first down, it's so predictable at times what a team is going to run. And a team that has trouble running the ball on the defense is still going to run the ball like Denver did with Buffalo. Now they get stopped. Now it's second down. and the defense is thinking, okay, they might not be running now,
Right.
and they're more likely to defend against a short pass.
And I don't think Bo Nix is at a place in his career where he could start calling a bunch of audibles, or maybe he doesn't want to call a bunch of audibles. I don't know. I don't know what the relationship between Sean Payton and him are, but if they're in a run-stopping formation, there's no reason Bo Nix can't call a play-action pass or RPO or whatever to try to pick up some yards throwing the ball, or maybe an option or something. One other thing.
Well, the good thing about Denver, they have their franchise quarterback in Bo Nix. He's only going to get better. And what I like about Bo Nix, he has leadership qualities. He even talks back to Sean Payton at times. Yes. He gets a little bit upset, but not too much should be read into that. It's okay sometimes for a quarterback to go at it with his coach, as long as the quarterback is respectful, and when all is said and done. And Bo Nix is a little animated. He might say, why are we doing that? We could do it a little better the other way. And the coach might say, okay, you think your way's better, give it a shot and try it.
Peyton and the defensive coordinator kind of going at it on the sideline a little bit. I know Denver gave
that
up.
That coordinator's gone now if they were going at it like that, unless they're very close.
Yes. I mean, listen, what are you going to say to the defensive coordinator? You're not doing something and you give up, you only scored 10 points.
The defense was disappointing, Denver. Let's be honest about it. They had a good season, all in all, and they should be very proud of the year that they had. But this particular game, for them to have any realistic chance, the defense was going to have to really play big, and they didn't do it.
A lot of stuff being said on the internet about the referee going over to Josh Allen and kind of like apologizing to him. He went over to him. He said something to Josh Allen. Josh Allen patted him on the side, and he left. And there was a holding. The guy holded the Buffalo receiver. Right? Everybody saw it on instant replay. That he held the receiver, the Denver guy. And Josh Allen, of course, came up. How come you didn't call a holding on that? And the referee actually went over to the bench to talk to Josh Allen. Josh Allen patted him. What do you think about that, Jack? Is that a good look or a bad?
It's a bad look. I think sometimes it happens where one referee might disagree with the call. He might kind of get overruled. We occasionally see referees disagree, and they have to come to a decision one way or the other. And I guess that particular referee maybe, I'm just speculating now, maybe wasn't comfortable by getting overruled, and he may have said, yeah, I know how you feel. It was, I saw what happened, sorry about that, and kind of like, let's move on. But it's a bad look. I mean, let the league office handle it after the game. The referee's on the field. You could see Josh Allen, his team won, he's happy. You could say, look, we may have missed that call. Sorry about that. We could have been better from our end. And then Josh Allen would have patted him on the back, and he'd say we're all human, case closed. Right. I forgot who the player was. Once I read about an official apologizing. This is before the Super Bowl era, shortly before. A player picked up a fumble and returned it for TD, and then the referee said, well, he blew the whistle, but hadn't really blown the whistle till after the thing, and the referee was apologizing to the player, but the player didn't want to know from it. So
I don't know.
It's a bad look. Listen, we see that happen with star players. Michael Jordan once, a referee was explaining something to Jordan, and he like to get his approval on it. Yeah. And it's not a good look, but it wasn't a big deal in this case with Josh Allen at the end of the day.
As you say, at the end of the game, fine, but during the game, the cameras are everywhere, and you're actually going over the sideline to the bench. That's a little nutty. So Philadelphia, Jack, kind of a boring game in a way. I mean, it wasn't really exciting, maybe because Green Bay really didn't play that well. I mean, Green Bay's defense, you mentioned in the beginning, played a decent game. But, I mean, Hurts throws for 2 touchdowns. Saquon has his 119 yards. But Jordan Love, I'm listening to these shows in the morning, the sports shows, And a guy says Jordan Love will never be a great quarterback because he throws too many interceptions and he doesn't take care of the ball and all this stuff. I disagree with him. I think he just had a bad game. 3 interceptions in the playoff, you can't do that.
Well, I have to be held accountable. I mean, there were 5 playoff games. I predicted 4 of them correctly, but the one I picked wrong cancels out the 4 I picked correctly because it was the Green Bay Packers, the team I picked to win the Super Bowl, who got eliminated. So I felt like a 4-1 loser this week. Okay,
Yeah.
I may as well have been 1-4. You know the way I feel. The thing about Jordan Love, I mean, Jordan Love hadn't thrown an interception for about 6 games going into this one. He hadn't thrown one since mid-November. So I don't want to hear he throws a lot of interceptions. Normally, he had a horrendous game yesterday. And the playoffs are a whole new season. You got to show up. You can't have a really good regular season and then be terrible in the playoffs. Yeah, in a given year, you can be that way. But this was a big spot for Jordan Love. Now, I hear the excuses coming out. Well, his receivers were down. He lost his top 3 receivers. He lost this player. He lost that player. And we saw during the game, the Packers had one guy go down after the other. But you don't make those mistakes. You hurt your team. And there were a couple of really horrendous throws that to me were kind of inexcusable. And when you're one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, I'm not sure if he's the highest, but he's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. No excuses. None at all on this. And the Packers lost the game on their special teams and the offensive side of the ball. Their defense played wonderfully. They kept them in the game. They played wonderfully, their defense. Their defense has nothing to apologize about at all. The opening kickoff, Packers fumbled the ball. Eagles have it deep in their territory. Before you know it, the Packers in a 7-0 hole, primarily because of their special teams. Then the Packers miss a field goal, a very makeable field goal, you know, and you're talking about all of, and if you eliminate those 2 things, the fumble, the missed field goal, they're not down 10-0 at halftime. Maybe the score's even. And if you look at the total yards, Josh Jacobs, he basically mirrored Saquon Barkley. He played a heck of a game, Josh Jacobs, but then he got hurt at the end of the game, couldn't get in for the final possession there. And the Packers, and even the coaching, the mistakes, the penalties. You look at the Packers sideline, Mac, and I don't know if it's my imagination, but I don't remember all season long of all the good teams in the NFL, good teams, not bad teams, all the fighting on the sideline, all the Xavier McKinney gets in a player's face on defense. Like, what are you doing? How can you let your guy get that open on a play that led to a Packer touchdown? Xavier McKinney is like telling him, you know what your assignment is. Why aren't you? You know, we practiced this. Then you see one of the coaches get mad at one of the players for a penalty. He's chewing them out, the assistant coach, during the game. No pat on the back. Like, what the heck are you doing? Matt LaFleur is exasperated over what's going on, like shaking his head. You saw that whole Packer team unravel. And that's the team I picked to win the Super Bowl. And they just fell up. They fell apart mentally, Mac. That's the thing about it. As a unit, they fell apart mentally. And it's totally unacceptable. Kudos to the Eagles. The Eagles basically just held serve. Saquon Barkley seemed rusty to me. He didn't play the last 2 regular season games because of a concussion. They never got the passing game going, the Eagles. 3 passes in A.J. Brown's direction. I was saying before our show yesterday, Mac, what concerned me about the Eagles, as good a regular season as they had, they were maybe over-reliant on Saquon Barkley. And if they're in a situation where they're forced to get their passing game going, can they really turn the switch on and off? You know, I kind of wonder about that.
I think a few things. I think the reason, why the Packers are just frustrated, right? They don't expect to go in there, and they expected to win this game. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't think they're talking enough about Jordan Love's arm. He lost feeling in his arm and it didn't supposedly come back to midweek. I mean, it just didn't look like he was throwing the ball like he could throw the ball, Jack. I really believe that arm affected, and he's not going to complain about it, and he's the best they got. I mean, they're not going to roll anybody else out there.
Not going to have Malik Willis. No, there's no way Malik Willis goes in there. Yeah.
Right. So, I just think Jordan Love, with them interceptions and those missed throws, I think it was his arm. I agree with you. I think, Hurts with a concussion came back and he was rusty. I agree with you. A few throws weren't even close. I mean, especially to A.J. Brown. He did make a couple nice throws, but he didn't look like to Jalen Hurts of the last few games before he got concussed. So it's the Phillies defense. The Eagles defense really put the pressure on Love almost the whole game when he was passing, held the running game into check until the end. I mean, at the end, Jacobs is running strong, but for 3 quarters he didn't. So, I mean, the 4th quarter he started running good. But, I mean, the game's over then. I mean, you're going to run the ball to catch up to the Eagles when you're down by, 10, 12 points or 13 points. I think the Eagles didn't mind giving up the running. And then you can run the ball, run the clock out. It didn't matter to them as much. So, the Eagles defense won that game, Jack. There's no doubt about that.
Well, you thought at the end of the game when the Packers were edging closer and getting field position, they might be able to steal this game at the end, at half. But they were always playing from behind because right off the bat they were down 7-0 because of the fumble, with special teams. And even the commentators were saying at halftime the Eagles up 10-0, and they were saying it feels like it's 75-0, but it's only about 10-0. And the Packers haven't done a thing, and you got the feeling they're getting back in the game. They did put themselves in position, and then it just unraveled with their unit and everything. It was a very bad team effort. If I'm the Packers, I'm thinking, what went wrong? And I don't want to hear, the injuries to this and that. Mac, you got a roster. Everyone has to perform. Everyone knows their assignments. I know in situations, sometimes you have better players than not. I can accept the injury factor. If Jordan Love is out with an injury, his backup Malik Willis is out. Now you're on your 3rd string quarterback.
Yeah,
I can accept, you're using it well. Injuries, we couldn't overcome it. But come on. You have backups there for a reason, and but kudos to the Philadelphia Eagles. They did what they had to do. They weren't spectacular, but they got the lead early, and they were never really seriously threatened. The Packers flirted with, getting back in the game, but it never quite got to that point.
And a great point with them with the dumb penalties, throwing Hurts down after the play's over. There's no reason for that. I mean, I don't know if the game was out of reach then or not.
4 turnovers by the Packers, none for the Eagles.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Goes to show you a big part of the game, right? So let's get to Washington. I went with Washington. I changed to Tampa Bay. I mean, the best game of the day. Jaden Daniels did not play like a rookie quarterback. He played an unbelievable game against Tampa Bay, who has a decent defense. I mean, they're not the best defense league, but they do have a very good defense.
Decent defense. They have a good defense on the Todd Bowles, the head coach, who was a defensive coordinator with Arizona and head coach of the Jets for a while, and defensive coordinator for the Buccaneers when they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady.
Right, and Daniels 260 yards. It's 68 yards passing, a couple touchdowns. McClure had a big game. McClure has always been good. I've always liked McClure even before Jaden Daniels got there. And he's very calm. I mean, if you look at the end of the game, that last second field goal, when it bounces off the right, I mean, everybody's going crazy. It bounces off the right post and falls in. Jaden Daniels just smiled. He didn't jump up and down. He's just like, yeah, okay. And he walked very calm.
He's having fun.
Yeah.
Mac, don't you get the feeling Jaden Daniels is having fun on the field? It's like you and I with our friends who meet in the park to play two-hand touch. You go there to have fun when you're kids. And that's how Jaden Daniels seems to be playing the game. Oh, I get to play football. I can't wait. This is fun. It's as if he's not thinking about what's at stake. He's just going out and playing. You know, it's a kid's game to him, and great. He'll be a rookie next week when he plays against the Lions. It'll be put in perspective. He's not. I'll be shocked if Jaden Daniels could lead the Commanders to a win over the Lions in Detroit. That is going to be a bit of a rude awakening, and if the smile's ever going to get wiped off his face, it's going to be in that game. But still, he's going to have a happy disposition. He's not going to get mad at his teammates. His teammates love him. They're not going to be disappointed in him. And, you know, I look at body language as a team's Mac to see what the overall attitude is. And the Commanders are like a fun group. They're just a fun group on the field, you know. And the Buccaneers had good body language, to in all fairness. There was a key fumble at the end of the game that ultimately lost Tampa Bay the game. Baker Mayfield showing really good leadership qualities, took the blame on the botched handoff. But I kind of doubt if it was Baker's fault, because it seemed like the center snapped the ball to him maybe a little early because the offensive line wasn't really moving for a split second. You have more of an insight into stuff like that than I did, Matt, because you coach football, even though it was at a lower level, and I haven't. Something went wrong. I mean, where did the misunderstanding come from? You'd be surprised. The center, I mean, in the pros, they don't do it like we use. The center would get the snap, and he would go out, and then you call the play again for the rest of the team. You call the play, center goes out. And then quarterback, you get underneath the center, or whether you're in a shotgun or whatever, you expect the ball to be up when it's supposed to be up. So it's a shock, right? I mean, you're looking over the defense. You're looking at the motions coming. I mean, it's just a shock that all of a sudden the ball's there, and you're not ready for it. And believe it or not, the center, there's a couple ways you snap, Jack. You snap straight back or you twist it, right? The laces are supposed to hit your right hand if you're right-handed. But if you're down there, wherever your hands, however they position your hands, either way, that ball hits your hands and you're not ready for it. Of course, you're gonna mishandle the ball. I think the center is the one that messed it up too, Jack. Listen, Baker Mayfield, I got a lot of respect for Baker Mayfield for more than one reason. He's a fighter. He doesn't give up. He's got to chill. I've seen him run over a middle linebacker. I mean, he's a little fighter dude. And Evans is a great wide receiver. I think Tampa Bay could have won this as easily as Washington did. Great for Washington. Not great for Washington. Nothing against. I mean, I give them all the respect that they did that with. But let me tell you, if it wasn't for that fumble and another inch to the right, it's a tie game or an overtime, and who knows who wins that. And I think Tampa Bay, I shouldn't say should have won it. I think they were more experienced and probably, I guess I say should have won that game. But Washington, like you say, Matt, Tampa Bay might be the most underrated team in the NFL for what they've accomplished. I think they have the third longest consecutive year streak of making it to the playoffs. Do you realize after they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, they've went back to the Super Bowl the next few years, 5 years in a row. They've been, not to the Super Bowl, I mean to the playoffs. They've been back to the playoffs 5 years in a row. When was the last time the Buccaneers weren't in the playoffs? But we think of them as being so-so team, not one of the stronger teams, but they were a perennial playoff team. I mean, their records might not have been great the last few years, 10-7 this year, 9-8 another year, 8-9 another year. That was good enough to win the division. But, they're doing what they have to do in their division. And we keep waiting for the Buccaneers to dip down a little. All they have to do is elevate a little bit. They still have a good defense. Make a couple of adjustments, and they could be back in the playoffs next year and could cause some damage. And people forget when they get eliminated in the playoffs, it's always a tough game. I mean, the year after winning the Super Bowl, they lose a tight game to the LA Rams, who ultimately won the Super Bowl. They played the Lions real tough in the playoffs last year, competitive game, and they lose this heartbreaker to the Commanders yesterday. But like you said, Matt, it was a winnable game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they didn't quite get it done.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, it just popped in my head. If Tampa Bay played in another division, would they be as successful? I don't think they would have been as successful. Maybe they would be. I mean, the North is tough. The East is okay. I mean, we got a couple teams in there. The West, I don't know. I mean, the Rams and Seattle. I mean, could Tampa Bay be a playoff team in the rest of the divisions?
Could they get in as a wild card? I mean, if they win the division with the Lions, Vikings, Packers, they would be, their record they'd be in fourth place behind them, but 10-7. They were 10-7 this year. That's good enough to usually get a team in the playoffs. But if they were in another division, no, they wouldn't fare, as well in all probability. So there's that certain bit of luck there. But sometimes you play to the game or play to the standings,
Sure.
and you could elevate, the team could elevate a little bit if they're in a tougher division, or they could get a little worse. But that's not reality, Mac. In the division they were in, and most people picked the Atlanta Falcons to win the division this year. The Falcons were heavily favored. They were getting Kirk Cousins. Everyone thought the Falcons won the cusp, even though they were just 7-10 for the 3 prior years, that the Falcons were going to be the team to take a leap up. And the Buccaneers, who were 9-8 last year, you thought, okay, they'll go 8-9, 9-8 again, but the Falcons will edge them out. But the Buccaneers did, manage to get it done. And if you look at that division next year, are there any clear favorites? The Carolina Panthers are getting better, but are they getting better to the point where they're going to win their division? The Saints, are they going to improve enough to win their division next year? And the Atlanta Falcons, we expected them to win their division this year. They didn't get it done. So why do we necessarily think they're going to get it done next year?
I don't know. I mean, Tampa Bay, I would think, would be the early favorite again when the season starts. You would think that.
Well, the Falcons were the early favorite this past
I'm saying this year coming up, I think Tampa Bay would be the early favorites. I mean, you've got to have basically a rookie quarterback playing next year for the Falcons. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he's not a rookie, but he didn't play a lot of games, so that's what I'm
Let's see what they do in free agency. The Buccaneers have a good defense. The defense is impressive, but they didn't get it done at the end of the game when Jaden Daniels was able to get Washington into field goal position. A part of the problem with the Tampa Bay defense, they were on the field more than they should have been.
Very true.
I think fatigue was setting in after a while.
Very true. And you got to chase a young rookie quarterback who likes to run around all over the field too, which
but they were containing him a lot. They were containing him a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, tonight, Jack, we got the Vikings at the Rams. If the Vikings lose this game, what happens to Sam Darnold? What happens to that? The Vikings were in first place. Of course, they lost to the Lions. They got killed by the Lions, to be honest with you. What happens to that whole setup there? I mean, you got a young quarterback sitting behind him. Do you keep Darnold? Trade McCarthy?
They absolutely keep Darnold no matter what, if they can work out his contract demands. The Vikings aren't going to overpay. Unless Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl. If Sam Darnold is Super Bowl MVP, they go all the way. And they're going to make him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. I can't imagine the Vikings letting him go. But I doubt if that's going to happen. I doubt if Sam Darnold's going to be Super Bowl MVP. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, right.
If they lose tonight, and let's say hypothetically Darnold plays a bad game. That's 2 bad games in a row. He ended with the Lions and in the playoffs, and they lose. I still think they want Darnold back as probably a bridge quarterback for J.J. McCarthy. And if McCarthy doesn't develop, they'll live with Sam Darnold. He's getting paid $10 million a year. They'll work something out where maybe a 2-year deal where he's going to get something like $70 million or thereabouts for 2 years. This way it won't be a long-term commitment because J.J. McCarthy will not be ready next season to be the Viking quarterback. The 1 year where you had to learn on the bench and everything, and the knee injury that he had too, they got to be sure he's ready to play. That's what Daniel Jones comes in. I mentioned this on the show yesterday, you get the feeling that Kevin O'Connell thinks he can maybe do with Daniel Jones what he did with Sam Darnold. That he thinks Daniel Jones could be a really good quarterback for the Vikings. And I think Kevin O'Connell is being partly fooled on the one playoff game when Daniel Jones was with the Giants where they beat his Viking team and Daniel Jones looked good. He's probably thinking, this guy's got talent. I can do things with him that the Giants couldn't. And I believe to an extent Kevin O'Connell can. I think Daniel Jones can perhaps be a competent NFL quarterback in the right situation. I think he can run an offense and he can maybe be successful in the right situation. And the right situation might be the Minnesota Vikings with, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones running the ball, Hockenstein, their defense that helps control games. So, but that's the big storyline. Mac, you tell me, answer this. Of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, why do we keep coming back to Sam Darnold and not the others more than anyone? Like, we don't know what the answer is.
Well, let me ask you a question. If the first 5 teams in the draft, one of the first 5 teams offers the Vikings their draft pick for J.J. McCarthy, if you're the GM of the Minnesota Vikings, do you take that?
Yeah, but no, what Vikings gave up, they went, I think, number 10 or number 11 last year. They worked out a deal with the Jets to move up to get the Jets pick. To move up just one spot in the draft, they gave up a 3rd-round draft pick at the last moment. So the Vikings, to break even, would basically have to get a number 1 and a number 3 for J.J. McCarthy. Now, the first couple of teams going, the Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns, no, they're not going to give that up for J.J. McCarthy. Who the heck is J.J. McCarthy? He was hurt last year. You don't know what you have in him. You don't know. And he went behind. Listen, Mac, he went behind 4 other quarterbacks in the draft last year. He was the 5th quarterback taken. Maybe a team that's going, 15th, 16th might say, we'll give you a number 1 for J.J. McCarthy. They might be desperate enough. Or maybe the Raiders go at number 8 will say, we'll give you our pick for J.J. McCarthy, even up. If I'm the Vikings, I want my 3rd-round pick back as well. But what are the Vikings thinking, Mac? Do they think J.J. McCarthy can be their quarterback of the future? Or have they made up their mind, Sam Darnold's going to be our guy, J.J.'s expendable, let's get a number 1 pick and improve the team?
Well, you got Sam Darnold. If you keep Daniel Jones, he's your backup. And J.J. McCarthy, I mean, to me, I'm not saying I'd get rid of him if I was the Vikings. I'm saying if a team came and offered me their 1st-round draft pick and maybe their 2nd-round draft pick or something like that, because the quarterback class sucks this year, Jack. And if you need a quarterback, I mean, I think J.J. McCarthy is better than any other quarterback coming out right now. So, I mean, it's a possibility.
You keep him. If you're the Vikings, you keep him. Mac, if the Vikings lose tonight and Sam Darnold is no more than so-so,
right?
Is he your guy you want to roll with in the future as your franchise quarterback? There's serious doubts. He's got to get it done. That was a big game against the Lions. This is a big game tonight. Sam Darnold has got to play well. If you have 2 so-so games in a row, the Vikings aren't going to commit long term. What the Vikings might do with Sam Darnold, they might decide they're going to franchise tag him next year at $41 million. That's heavy money. That's
Right.
more money per year than I think they would want to pay him on a 2-3 year deal. So if they franchise tag him for 1 year, they might figure, okay, J.J. McCarthy can develop next year under Sam Darnold. And if Darnold plays great next year, then you reevaluate the situation. I think the Vikings had no choice. They're thinking about it, but I think it's kind of like a wait and see what's going on with Sam Darnold. I don't think the book is closed on Sam Darnold, what they're going to do one way or the other. That's what's intriguing about tonight's game, Mac. It's not just a question of which team wins. Everyone is going to be evaluating Sam Darnold's performance. It's like he's auditioning during a playoff game with the year he had. He's auditioning tonight.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with the last game. I mean, I think tonight's game is going to be really good, Jack. I think it's going to be a very good game. Like I said on the show, I take Stafford over Darnold any day of the week. The wide receiver crew is about the same. The running game is pretty close. It's pretty even. Minnesota's got an edge on the defense. And if they can put pressure and turn the ball over against the Rams, they're going to win. If they can't, I think the Rams will beat them, to be honest with you.
It's a winnable game for the Rams. I wouldn't be shocked if the Rams win. The Rams have a good defense. I think it's going to be a close game, a fairly low-scoring game. I'll pick the Vikings if I have to throw out a score. How about 21-14? I think the Viking defense can come up with a big effort. I don't know the thought of it being on neutral ground, the game being in Arizona, how that might affect things. You talk about the Rams and, well, we'll dedicate the game to the city, Los Angeles. Do you really think in California they're so into the game with these wildfires? I mean, and the Rams have never been the type of team that had the greatest fan base. Let's be honest about it. If this were Buffalo or something, Buffalo or Philadelphia, the people are really into it there. Green Bay. Yeah. Somehow in LA, there's a little bit of an indifference, when it comes to their teams there.
I mean, Arizona the Rams did play in Arizona for a little while. So maybe they still got some fans left over there. I mean, the Cardinals are the team there now, right? But didn't the Rams play in Arizona for a little while, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, I don't remember, but it's going to be a defensive game for the most part. I mean, how the defenses are going to be. Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, in a sense, he's auditioning a little bit to see how his Viking defense does. If they play a really bad game against the Rams and lose, it could affect his job status, which is precarious as is. But if they're lights out, that defense, they win and they play really great, it increases the chances of him getting, a head coaching opportunity of being more seriously considered for that type of job.
I agree. And you got an experienced quarterback, going up against him. And it should be, like you said, I think it's going to be a good game too, Jack. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring.
Very good game.
Yes.
So
we got
Cam Akers. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Talk about Cam Akers.
Cam Akers used to be. They gave up on him. The Rams. He's with the Vikings now. So that's going to be like an interesting sideline. How much the Vikings might use him in this game.
Great point. So we got Houston versus Kansas City. Some people thinking Houston could beat Kansas City. I don't think so. I think Kansas City is still the cream of the crop over there. I think, once they go up against Kansas City's defense, I love the defensive coordinator. Of course, he was a Giants coordinator too. I think the Chiefs defense will shut down that young quarterback. C.J. Stroud, I don't think is going to have much of a fun day. And Kelsey's old, but they got to find a way to cover Kelsey. And they got a lot of different people they can throw to now. I like the Kansas City's running game. Houston's young, aggressive. They'll be there I think they'll be there for the half, Jack. But as always, I think KC wins this in the end.
Don't go to sleep on Houston. They did have a late season game, and Houston played them very tough. Kansas City ultimately stepped up and won the game. This is it for Kansas City. A lot of close wins during the year, but now they got to step up. They got to play better than they did during most of the regular season. Forget the last game against Denver. That meant nothing to them, the throwaway game. That doesn't count. But they did pick it up in the late season games, notably against the Texans, who they're going to be playing again. That Texan defense under DeMeco Ryan is good. They're going to cause Patrick Mahomes some problems. You know, I kind of laughed. Someone posted in defense of Aaron Rodgers his stats next to Patrick Mahomes, and the stats seem so similar. But that shows you how deceiving statistics can sometimes be, because quarterbacks play to the game. They play to a game situation. I mean, I remember the year the Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning, they lost badly to the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning. I'm sorry, the Denver Broncos. They lost badly to the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl. And so Peyton Manning at the end of the game was dinking and dunking a lot of short passes. And it turned out he set a Super Bowl record for something like most completed passes. And you might look saying, well, he did his part. You know, he was playing to the game, just taking what they were giving him at the end of the game. They were saying, you could take this and, you know, we'll take time off the clock in exchange. It was kind of like a trade-off, but it looks good statistically sometimes.
Of course. They ended the game garbage stats. They always
you got it.
So Baltimore's going to Buffalo. Baltimore spanked them last time they played them.
In Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't know, Jack. I mean, I just think Baltimore's got a more explosive offense than Buffalo. And I think their defense might be a little bit better. I think they'll be able to stop Cook easier than Buffalo can stop King Henry. Buffalo's got a great secondary defense. They're top 3 in the league. So I think Baltimore's just going to try to run the ball down their throat. Will Buffalo pull up the a win? I think Buffalo will be the underdog, believe it or not, this week.
No, not in Buffalo. No, not in Buffalo. They definitely won't be the underdog there, Mac. Not in Buffalo. If it was on neutral ground, who knows? But you're right about, I think, Baltimore being able to run the ball. You can run the ball on Buffalo. And with Derrick Henry, who's a beast, you would think Baltimore can run on the Buffalo defense. And then you have Lamar Jackson, the greatest running quarterback in the history of the NFL. Not that Josh Allen isn't a heck of a running quarterback himself. Is Zay Flowers going to be back? You know, the Raven wide receiver. That's what I kind of wonder about. In a game like this, every little bit makes a difference. And Zay Flowers, a really good receiver who's very valuable for the Raven offense. I kind of wonder about his status, in this game as well. It's not going to be anything like the game in Baltimore where the Ravens beat the Bills handily in the regular season. This has got to wind up being a close game. And it's going to be a lot of heartbreak for either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, because everyone keeps mentioning, well, are they going to get to the next level? Are they this? Are they that? But if you look at Josh Allen, the times his Buffalo Bills have gotten eliminated in the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs, he played really well. He wasn't the reason that they lost. I mean, just quite the opposite. He put his team in every position to win these games. They couldn't quite get it done. You can't quite say the same about Lamar Jackson. He hasn't quite shown up. Beating the Steelers this weekend, 28-14, they were better. The Ravens are flat out better than the Steelers. Yes. They had a 21-0 halftime lead. You knew the Steelers were never going to seriously threaten the Ravens in that game. Even going into the game, you never got the sense, the Steelers could pull this upset. You just never quite got that feeling. Yeah, and, but that's going to be the best game to me next weekend going on. I mean, I know the Houston, Kansas City, I feel it's going to be a heck of a game. I'm going to be picking Houston to upset Kansas City, but maybe I'm doing it in part because Houston was my pick to go to the Super Bowl, in part, but I love the way Houston played against the Chargers this weekend. I think Houston is back to where they were early in the year when other people were picking them to perhaps go to the Super Bowl as well. But Baltimore, Buffalo, that is a game of two giants. Let me ask you this, Matt. When Buffalo and Baltimore get done beating up on one another, how much is that going to affect the winner for the AFC Championship game? Will it take something out of the winner? Are they going to damage themselves?
I don't know, Jack, to be honest with you. I don't think so. I mean, it is what it is. It's everybody's banged up right now for playing in the playoffs right now. Unless somebody
mentally, not physically necessarily.
I don't think so. I mean, you got to focus. I would imagine, Jack. I've never been in a place where I played in playoffs before, even at the lower level. Had one shot, but we didn't make it. I imagine that you're so focused, and so you take care of what you got to take care of, whether it's ice baths or taping up or taking shots or whatever you got to do to get focused for the next game. I really don't think they even worry about that. And mentally, you're just so focused on the next game. I mean, you got to focus on Josh Allen. They have to focus on Lamar Jackson, or they're going to lose. So, I mean, I think mentally they're going to be ready to go. I think, as you said, I think it's going to be a real good game. I think
I've seen it happen before when I'm talking about, and I could give you a couple of examples that just popped right into my head. I know I go back sometimes decades in this, but after the Dolphins had won their back-to-back Super Bowls, their unbeaten team, and then they repeated, the Dolphins are playing the Oakland Raiders in a game between two giants. The Raiders were considered a great team, elite team. The two giants went at it, and the Raiders won that game. Remember when Kenny Stabler was falling and he let go of the pass and won? That was a very emotional game. To both teams, that was like the championship game. The only problem was it was just a regular playoff game, and the winner had to play the Steelers the following week. And the Steelers had not yet won a Super Bowl. Okay? Keep that in mind. And they're playing in Oakland. And Oakland loses that game at home to the Steelers that they were heavily favored to win. And even the Oakland players were saying after, we were all excited to play the Dolphins. Everyone was psyched. And when we got to our locker room the day to play the Steelers, it was kind of flat. And more recently, under the Rex Ryan regime, the Jets upset the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick and Brady in the playoffs. The next week in Pittsburgh, they were so flat to start the game. And that's what lost them the game. They were flat the first half.
Well, I think there'll be no problem. The Steelers, as you said, didn't go to Super Bowl. Kansas City did. So, I mean, I think Kansas City wins that game. If it's Houston, maybe. If Kansas City wins that game, there is no way they're mentally gonna not be ready to play the
Chiefs. The Chiefs.
Right.
Yeah, you make a great point. Because it's the Chiefs. That is a great point, Mac. You have to be up for the Chiefs. There's no way the Baltimore winner survives that and it's flat for the Chiefs. But you're right. If it's the Texans, they might have a letdown. You're not as psyched to play the Texans. It's a very important game, obviously, to see who goes to the Super Bowl. But something is missing as opposed to playing the Chiefs. Because you're human. You're human. Yeah, you're up for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I'm even psyched to watch the game. Mac, even as a viewer, even as a television viewer, Mac, let's be honest about it. You and I are more psyched to see the Buffalo-Baltimore winner play the Chiefs then we ought to see them play Houston. If they're playing Houston, you and I are a little bit flat. Yeah, we're interested. We're going to watch the game, but we're not as psyched for the game, even as a television viewer.
Of course. I agree. So Washington will play Detroit. I think Washington's offense will do pretty good against the Detroit defense. But that Washington defense has got to stop that Detroit machine. Their running game is good. Their passing game is good. All the receivers are good. Tight end is good. I mean, the Washington defense will have to have an unbelievable game to beat Detroit. Jack.
Detroit's going to have to play a bad game because Detroit's going to put a beating on them. This is not going to be a close game. Whatever the points are, take Detroit and give the points. No disrespect to Washington. They've had a great year. Washington can afford to lose this game, and I'm not saying this is going to be the score. They could afford to lose 44-7 and leave the field smiling. And they can laugh in the locker room, joke around after the game, and everyone can pat one another on the back because they've had a great year. They're playing with house money, Mac. They're showing up at the casino, and all of a sudden someone is handing them a stack of chips. They just go and have fun and gamble and go, They got nothing to lose here at this point. Nothing to lose at all. If Detroit should lose at home to the Washington Commanders, oh man, what a disaster that's going to be. So the pressure is all on Detroit. Mac, I welcome the pressure, if I'm an athlete. I welcome it. I can't stand when I hear someone say, oh, we can play all loose and relaxed, loosey-goosey in a playoff game. That's for losers. Losers play loose and relaxed in big games. I'm not saying be nervous. You can't be too tight. Obviously, you can't.
Right.
You have to keep your emotions under control. But normally, I don't want to hear that there's nothing to lose unless there really is nothing to lose. And for the Commanders, there really is nothing to lose this game. They've exceeded expectations. It's a great season they've had. They have a nice future ahead of them, this squad. Go into Detroit, just have fun there from their end. But the Lions better get the job done.
Real quick, Philadelphia will get the winner of the Rams in Minnesota. Jack, I want your opinion. Couple moves. Rabel is the head coach of the Patriots. Everybody kind of saw this coming. Keith Angle said this was coming. Of course,
we all saw it coming, Max. That was no scoop. Everyone saw it coming.
Yeah. So much for the Rooney Rule and all that good stuff. Just hire who you want. That's what they should say. Just get rid of the Rooney Rule. Get the best coach available, and stop with this racial thing. Listen. You're going to get the best coach. I think if I'm the owner, I want the best coach available. I don't care what color he is. So
it's sometimes so insulting to black candidates. Aaron Glenn turned down the interview with New England. He said, "Look, he was thinking Grable's going to get the job." That's just like a quota I'm filling by going there and interviewing because they have to interview me.
Right. Agree. And Aaron Glenn supposedly is the leading coach for the New York Jets spot. So we'll see what he played for the Jets. We'll see if he goes there. He's a good coach. So
he would be a good hire. He'd be a good hire. Brian Flores has been my guy, but the baggage, I'm not going to go over it, that he comes with.
Right.
I have mixed feelings, Brian. It's unfortunate. But let's see what the Vikings do the rest of the way. If the Vikings win tonight, let's say they go on to win the Super Bowl. How's Brian Flores not going to have a job? But remember not long ago, Eric Bieniemy was the hottest coaching candidate. Can he even get a job as offensive line coach or whatever, receivers coach now, in the NFL?
He went down to college and he lost his job at the college level too. So he's.
He could. I don't second guess. He took a shot. Kudos to Eric B. He's made some money, so he's fine. But had he stuck with the Chiefs, that would have been the most cushiony job. You got Patrick Mahomes, the offense, Andy Reid's assistant. But Eric Bieniemy wanted to branch out. He wanted a head coaching job, and I don't think he ever gets it or comes close to getting it.
I don't either, especially after failing in college too, Jack. So Anyway, folks, we're at the end of the program. Thanks for tuning in. Hope we gave you all the information, which we always do every Monday. Today we got a lot of shows coming up. We got the Big Blues Brothers. We got Jack and Frank Latirzo with Blood Fist at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm also be producing Start Spreading the News tonight. So busy Monday. Stick with us, and